We're pleased to be joined by our Administrator of Elections, Mr. Albert Tisch. Mr. Tisch, if you would, please introduce who you have with you and begin your budget presentation for us.
Thank you, Chairman McGuire. Members of Council, I'm Albert Tisch, Administrator of Elections for Davidson County. On my left is Joan Nixon, the Chief Deputy. Also with me on my right is Bill Hyden, the Finance Manager. Last year at this time, Pat Novotny was with me. Pat retired in January, and Bill agreed to come over for Metro Office of Management Budget. We miss Pat, and we wish her a fun retirement. Also in the audience, one of our 5 election commissioners, Patricia Heim, is with us today. We are satisfied with the mayor's proposed budget. I have a few remarks and then be glad to answer your questions. Earlier this year, we trained over 1,000 poll officials on the implementation of the new state law on photo ID. We also conducted a variety of programs to inform Metro citizens about the photo ID law, including 24 presentations by senior staff to groups and organizations. We sent letters to approximately 9,600 Metro voters who were over the age of 60 but had no photo on their driver's license. And in the month prior to the election, we placed ads on Metro buses reminding people of the new requirement. We secured increased financial compensation for our poll officials. We successfully conducted the August 4th, 2011 county general election for the members of this body and the subsequent runoff in September. It is my understanding that was the first runoff in Metro history that was not a countywide runoff. We conducted the presidential preference primary in March of this year, and that election was the first election in Davidson County under the new photo ID laws. We coordinated with the IT department and the planning department to accurately reassign all affected voters into the newly drawn Metro Council and school board districts in the spring of 2011. This was accomplished in a short time frame available between the plan's adoption and the start of early voting in July. The staff at the planning department was indispensable in that effort, and I want to thank them. This spring, we are again involved in redistricting as we incorporate the newly drawn Tennessee State House and State Senate lines. Again, the planning department's help has been invaluable, and I will tell you, and I know Rick is back there, when I talk about redistricting with my peers in other counties, they are often envious of our planning department. We have submitted a reimbursement request for $417,000 in federal dollars for the costs of the presidential preference primary in March. We have also recently submitted a grant to the state for $381,000 for the lease of 300 additional voting machines to speed up the process during the high turnout presidential election in November. One of our goals last year was to begin moving Davidson County toward electronic poll books in place of the paper poll books we currently use. The contract for electronic poll books is moving through the signature process now. We were able to convert the money we did not have to spend in the September runoff into 4% funds for the electronic poll books. Those dollars will pay for over half the cost of the electronic poll books. And these electronic poll books will streamline and speed up the sign-in process for the voters on Election Day. And more importantly, it will eliminate many opportunities for human error in the polling place. Another goal of ours is to increase the use of video training for our poll officials to supplement their in-person training. These videos have recently been completed, and I want to thank the IT department and Metro 3 for their assistance and patience in helping us produce these high-quality training videos. We are also continuing our efforts towards online filing and online inspection of campaign finance documents. This is done at the state level, and we would like to bring it to the county level as well. And we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilman Tigard, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thanks for being here, Albert, and your staff. We have talked generally, but not in specifics, and I've also spoken with Ms. Heim and each individual election commissioner privately, or separately, I should say, about ways that we can save the cost of elections. And obviously one way to save the cost of elections is not have as many elections. So I just am basically making a statement to the council that there is the possibility of a charter amendment being filed that would roll the date of a future election so that we can start combining some of these local, state, and federal elections into one, and actually during the course of a 4-year cycle cut out 1 or 2 elections. So I say that as a way to save this government approximately $500,000.
Good rule of thumb would be $500,000 for a countywide election.
For a countywide election. The question I have for you is concerning your personal thoughts on early voting and the number of sites that are available and the length of the time at each of those sites. From a candidate, as all of us were last year, 15 days or whatever it was at a lesser number of sites. Our experience is people wait to the last minute. It would seem to me that having fewer early voting days that would still comply with any state and federal laws at more locations, more convenient locations throughout different communities would be a better way to go than having fewer locations with extended periods of time, as long as you stretched it out and had 2 Saturdays and some hours at evening. Would you care to comment on potential cost savings and whether that is possible to do?
Well, it's a matter of efficiencies. What we try and do is look at the expected turnout in the election. For example, in the August election that's coming up, historically we're expecting a single-digit turnout for this election. So we staff the early voting sites accordingly. We'll have the Election Commission office open for the full 2 weeks, and then for the last week of that, we will open 5 satellite sites around the county. This is a pretty efficient way of making sites available. I think if money was no object, we could put sites, as many sites as we wanted, but money is always an object. So it's a balancing act. You try and make it as convenient as possible for the voters while at the same time being a good steward of the taxpayers' money.
Critics would say, though, that when people get used to a site and that site is not always open in every election, then you create confusion and a disincentive to vote. So my point is, would it not make more sense to keep a static number of sites open at every election, but if it is going to be a lower turnout election, simply open them for fewer days?
Well, we are forming a pattern, and we have a core of sites, and there are 5 of those that we have traditionally always opened, and in the smaller elections, those will be the only satellites. In the larger election, for example, November, we're expecting a large turnout. We'll have 12 satellites plus downtown. And I understand your question is open more sites for fewer days. That's an option. I am not sure. I think that is a good option. I would rather standardize so that, as you say, the voters have a sense of where those sites are going to be. We don't randomly open and close sites around the city. It depends on the turnout we expect. There are more farther out in the county ring for the larger elections, and we do not open those in the smaller elections.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell, you're recognized.
Yeah, and my questions are in similar line with Councilman Tigert. I think he went about it in a different way. I'm going to just cut to the chase on you. Out in our area in Bellevue, this cycle you've got 5 school board elections. So I just think, it all comes down to dollars. So if you had the additional dollars, was it $25,000 to open up an additional early voting site?
I'm trying to remember the exact. It's about $2,000 a day.
Okay. So if you're only opening them up for a week this time, so it'd be less than that if you opened up additional sites. But I was just looking at the map on the early voting sites for this August, and I think 4 of the 5 school board races, there's an early voting site in their district. The only one that's not got an early voting site is the Bellevue district, the far west, southwest portion of the county. That's just concerning to me. I just want more opportunity for people to be able to vote in that election. I know you're doing it by traditionally what's been the higher turnout, but I think in the last couple of elections, that Bellevue site has been in the top, I think, 3. Is that correct?
No, sir, it's not.
It's not?
It has been all over the mark in the history of that site, and it is still on our list of sites, and we will be there in November. But it traditionally is not one of our top vote-getting sites.
Okay, it just from people that far out, I guess the Green Hills Library would be the nearest early voting location.
Well, for this upcoming election, we're going back to Belmead City Hall, which is farther west and is closer to the Bellevue area. The Green Hills Library, while it's a site that is popular, parking and getting in and out of the Green Hills Library is sometimes difficult. So we're going a little closer to Bellevue by moving out to Belmead.
So if this council appropriated $20,000 to your budget, would you open up an additional site?
Those decisions are made by the 5 commissioners.
Okay. And last, the 9,900 folks without a ID, do we have a number of how many of those folks have an ID now?
I don't have that number. I think the state may have that number available. They have not given me that number.
Okay. And, I hate to ask the question. Sounds like I'm
that's all right.
Attacking you guys, but I think y'all do a good job with the amount of money you have. I just access as many people as we possibly can is my desire. And, hopefully, you can have those appropriations to do the job you need.
I understand that. One comment I would make, I saw a TV station article where the reporter seemed to report that because there was no Bellevue early voting site, that people who lived in Bellevue would not be able to vote. That is certainly not the case. If anyone has that impression, anyone can vote at any early voting site, so I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you. Councilman Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Tisch. I just have a comment. I was traveling through my district at the last election, and they did some shifting over there in terms of the voting precincts. One of the ones that they went to, I think they've already had it there as the old Brick Church School, a.k.a. Smith Craighead Academy. Well, they moved out of that building. The reason they moved out is because the fact it's in such terrible shape. It was leaking. I went over there, and it just puddles of water in the floor there. And I didn't know whether you was aware of it or not. I had to go by there because I was called. And I didn't hardly make any calls. I said, I'll just try to take it up before the next election. It's pretty bad. It's in pretty bad shape. And I think that there is another school right up the street at the Smith and Craighead K-4 school, which is a much better location than the old Brick Church School. And I was just wondering, I wanted to try to make you aware of it.
Yes, sir. We've moved out of that building.
When did you move out of it?
Well, we won't be in that building for the next election.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you was in it last time I was there.
Yes, we were. And I believe the new site is New Brick Church Middle. I think that's correct.
But they already got one up there, the new Brick Church. So they're going to have a dual box up there or something?
Well, no, sir. We've just redistricted, and I must admit to you, I don't have all 160 polling places memorized.
Okay.
I do know we've moved out of that school for the very reasons that you mentioned.
But we don't know where we moved to yet.
Well, we do. I just can't tell you right now.
Oh, okay. I'll just pick Jones' brains when I see her again.
Well, we need Bobby to tell us exactly where we're
Oh, okay then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you guys. Really appreciate the budget numbers you have here, and I think it's great to see you trimming year after year. I don't want to beat the dead horse with the Bellevue thing, but I was just going to say I kind of concur with them. More access points, I'd be open to less time. I think Councilman Tiger was onto something there. If it was open for a week, for example, we need more access points on the outer rings of the county. So, taking away something like Bellevue is going to hurt folks out there early voting. So just anything we can do to continue to have the access points in the outer ring. Is there anything, to me, it's just interesting that so many folks in the county don't vote in the city elections and in the school board elections. And, is there any efforts from your office to try and drive that up? I mean, Councilman Maynard's writing a book about it, for example. It's so important to him. Is there anything you guys can do as the commission to continue to get folks to vote in our elections, the more local elections?
I think that question of why voter turnout is not high all over the country is a fascinating conversation that we can certainly have, but this is probably not the venue for that. We do everything we can to make it as easy as possible, but as I say, that's a longer conversation.
Okay, we'll do a workshop on that sometime. I don't want to belabor the point. Is any of your budget this coming year going towards more photo ID access and getting those folks straightened out?
Not specifically towards photo ID education efforts. We'll continue to push that information to anyone who wants it, but as far as a financed campaign, no, we are not.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Stein, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Tisch. We raised the poll worker compensation. Is that still in this budget?
Yes, it is.
And is the level of that compensation similar to other communities that have poll workers?
Similar to other counties?
However we would measure. Are we?
We are higher than some. We are lower than some. We are lower than Memphis. We are higher than Williamson. I don't have them all.
I assumed it was probably well received by those that get it. My question is,
that would be an understatement.
Has it helped some? I mean, I know at some points you have trouble finding folks. Does it help a little bit?
It has helped. People don't typically do this work for the money, but it does help. And of course, we are always looking for, and now we're looking for computer-savvy poll workers to help us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do have a couple more members in my queue. In the interest of time, again, we are running about 45 minutes behind schedule at this point. If there are questions that you can ask Mr. Tisch directly, I would please encourage you to do that. Council Lady Moore, you're recognized.
Quick question. Thank you so much, Joan. How you doing? Just want to say, did you say Green Hills voting site will be closed? Did you?
Oh, no, Green Hills voting site won't be closed.
Okay, I was getting ready to say, I know Sean's sitting up there. I mean, Councilman McGuire sitting up there. Okay.
During early voting for August, we will not be at the Green Hills Library.
Early voting.
That site will move to Belmead City Hall.
Okay. And Sevier Park is closed, so you have automatically moved that voting site to a church. Is that correct? And I know you don't have your list in front of you.
Joan tells me it's Second Missionary Baptist.
Okay. And my other question is that I had some concerned constituents about, the school, MNEPS office sits in District 17, but somehow or another they think that it's District 7. Could you, you don't have to answer this, could you just give me some clarification? Because they seem to think that they're in two districts, District 5 and District 7. So could I get some clarification on, like Gale Lane is near Battlefield. Is that a District 7 or is it a District 5? I mean, they are like a little bit confused. And they think I am in both of them.
If there's a specific address you can give me, I can tell you exactly where they are.
Well, okay. Well, I'm just saying all of Gale Lane thinks they're in District 7.
I just can't answer that question.
Okay. Well, okay. I would have to probably send it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Bedney, you're recognized.
Yeah, I wanted to thank your office for helping us with our efforts to teach the new Americans how to use the election machines. That's been great.
They were there in our conference room today, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was wondering I wanted to follow up on Councilman Davis' question about the voter ID card. Has the state supported that, given us any money to help us support your efforts of dealing with that?
There was no funding from the state on the photo ID education efforts to the counties.
Is there any any way to ask them to help us with that? I mean, being that you had to deal with it?
Well, we could ask. I did ask them if they wanted to team with me on the city bus ads, and they did not have the budget for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more questions. Mr. Tisch, Ms. Nixon, Mr. Hyden, appreciate you being here very much. Thank you.